The azure-eyed giant eagle, carrying Duan Ling Tian and the other two, had just approached the Azure Wolf Fort when a person flew out from within the fort, directly intercepting the giant eagle. Book website, www.com. This person was a middle-aged man dressed in a green uniform. The middle-aged man had an ordinary appearance, and on the left side of his chest, a very distinctive badge was pinned. The badge was emblazoned with a fierce azure wolf head design. The eyes of the azure wolf head were bronze-colored. 3. What brings you to our Azure Wolf Fort? The middle-aged man asked. We are from the Han Dynasty, and we are here to participate in the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Meet. Feng Wu Dao explained their purpose, hearing Feng Wu Dao's words. The middle-aged man's gaze fell upon Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu, finally settling on Duan Ling Tian, with a hint of surprise that in his opinion, this purple-robed young man should be one of the top 10 young talents from the Han Dynasty who qualified for the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Meet. His young age couldn't help but surprise him as for the other red-robed woman. He merely assumed she was tagging along for the excitement, simply because she was far too young. Please follow me, all three of you. The middle-aged man led the way, and the azure-eyed giant eagle followed. First, he arranged accommodation for the giant eagle, and then led Duan Ling Tian and the other two towards the west. Along the way, Duan Ling Tian curiously observed his surroundings. This Azure Wolf Fort was divided into two areas. The area he was currently in was the southern section, as large as the capital of the Han Dynasty. Within this vast area, a towering arena stood. There were no spectator stands around this arena. One could only stand in the air nearby to watch. That place is the arena where the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Meet will be held in 10 days. The middle-aged man introduced. Not long after, under the guidance of the middle-aged man, Duan Ling Tian and the other two approached a continuous cluster of buildings to the west. These buildings were all pavilions. Each pavilion had a plaque hanging above it, such as Chrysanthemum Pavilion, Osmanthus Pavilion, Peony Pavilion, and so on. These pavilions, varying in height, were all named after flowers. As they drew closer to the pavilions, Duan Ling Tian saw another middle-aged man, also dressed in a green uniform, leading 8 people into a 4-story pavilion. Those 8 people should also be from some dynasty. Duan Ling Tian mused soon. Under the middle-aged man's lead, Duan Ling Tian and the other two arrived in front of a 2-story pavilion. This Narcissus Pavilion will be your residence. Additionally, I ask this young brother to register your name and the dynasty you are from with me, the middle-aged man said, pulling out paper and pen. Addressing Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian nodded, then stated his name and origin. Is this for registering participants in the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Meet? Feng Tian Wu asked from the side. Yes. The middle-aged man nodded. Then add my name as well. Feng Tian Wu said. The middle-aged man was first taken aback, then reacted, his gaze falling on Feng Tian Wu. His eyes filled with disbelief. Could it be? You are also a young talent from the Han Dynasty participating in the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Meet? Initially, he had only assumed Duan Ling Tian was the young talent from the Han Dynasty who had qualified for the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Meet. Even so, he was shocked by Duan Ling Tian's age at a young man who appeared to be around 25 years old, yet able to stand out among the young powerhouses of the Han Dynasty, was truly remarkable. But now, realizing that Feng Tian Wu was also a young talent participating in the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Meet, he was startled. This red-robed woman looked to be at most in her early 20s. Even if she maintained herself well, she would be around 25 at most. It seems the current generation of young people in the Han Dynasty doesn't have many outstanding talents. Otherwise, how could 2 young people like them have secured spots to participate in the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Meet? The middle-aged man thought to himself as he registered Feng Tian Wu, taking it for granted. After the registration, the middle-aged man handed each of Duan Ling Tian and the other two a token. These 3 tokens will allow you to move freely within our Azure Wolf Fort's outer fort. As for the inner fort, non-Azure Wolf Fort disciples are forbidden from entering or exiting. In 10 days, gather at the arena in the outer fort. At that time, the young talents from the 10 dynasties will gather to hold the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Meet. With that said, the middle-aged man departed. Duan Ling Tian and the other two also entered the Narcissus Pavilion. The Narcissus Pavilion had 2 floors, each with 2 rooms and a balcony, making it very spacious. Immediately after, Duan Ling Tian and the other two settled into the Narcissus Pavilion. After entering his room, Duan Ling Tian sat cross-legged on the bed, cultivating with a calm mind. 9 Dragon War Sovereign Technique, Sword Dragon Transformation. Currently, Duan Ling Tian had only one urgent goal, and that was to comprehend the sword intent. As long as he comprehended sword intent, he would be able to cultivate the heaven-rank high-grade offensive martial skill, 9 Dragon Inch Flash. If I can successfully cultivate the 9 Dragon Inch Flash before the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts meet begins, my strength will advance even further. Duan Ling Tian immersed himself completely in his cultivation, as if he had forgotten the passage of time. Brother Duan. Brother Duan. He didn't know how much time had passed, but a series of urgent voices entered his room and reached Duan Ling Tian's ears, causing him to awaken from his cultivation. Tian Wu? Duan Ling Tian opened his door and looked at Feng Tian Wu standing outside. Has the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts meet started? I feel like I haven't been cultivating for very long. Brother Duan, there are still 5 days until the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts meet. I called you out because Brother Zhang has come twice already. He invited us to go out for a meal together. Feng Tian Wu smiled. Duan Ling Tian followed Feng Tian Wu out of the Narcissus Pavilion and discovered that Zhang Shouyong was already waiting outside. Brother Zhang. Brother Ling Tian. Zhang Shouyong responded with a smile, then enthusiastically said, Come on, let's the 3 of us go out to eat. I've been in this Azure Wolf Fort for 3 days now, and I haven't had a good chance to go out and explore. All right. Duan Ling Tian nodded, then said to Feng Tian Wu, Tian Wu, go tell Uncle Feng. Feng Tian Wu nodded, then went to greet Feng Wu Dao. Brother Ling Tian, you're really something. Now you're already following your wife's lead. Zhang Shouyong teased. Duan Ling Tian gave a wry smile. Brother Zhang, you know, I still have little Feier and the others. So, let's not joke like this in the future. Tian Wu and I are just ordinary friends. We don't have the kind of relationship you imagine. Aren't you Lord Wu Dao's son-in-law? It's already spread throughout the Han Dynasty. Zhang Shouyong was startled. It's a long story. Duan Ling Tian sighed. Just then, Feng Tian Wu returned, so he didn't explain further. Let's go. Duan Ling Tian and the other two rose into the air side by side, leaving the Azure Wolf Fort in a flash. They looked around, searching for nearby restaurants. Soon, they found a relatively large restaurant. After sitting down at a table by the window, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but extend his spiritual power, enveloping Zhang Shouyong. He immediately detected Zhang Shouyong's current cultivation, Void Prying Stage, 1st level. Brother Zhang has also broken through. Although Duan Ling Tian wasn't surprised by this, he was happy for Zhang Shouyong. He had known Zhang Shouyong even before he met Feng Tian Wu. Moreover, Zhang Shouyong had saved his life. Duan Ling Tian had always maintained his past respect for Zhang Shouyong, regarding him as an elder brother. Oh, isn't this the powerhouse from the Han Dynasty? Your name seems to be Zhang Shouyong? Suddenly, a harsh voice approached from a distance. At the same time, 2 young men, around 37 or 38 years old, nearing middle age, walked side by side. They stood in front of Duan Ling Tian and the other two's table, and the blue-robed young man among them was looking at Zhang Shouyong with a mocking gaze. What? Wasn't yesterday's lesson enough? Zhang Shouyong disdainfully glanced at the blue-robed young man and coldly shouted, Scram! The blue-robed young man's expression changed, and he said coldly, Zhang Shouyong, I admit I'm not your opponent. However, your opponent today is not me. At this point, he looked at the taciturn, skinny young man beside him, a humble expression appearing on his face. Brother Kong. It was him yesterday who said that all the young talents from our great Chu dynasty participating in the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts meet are useless, and all are his defeated opponents. Zhang Shouyong's brows furrowed slightly. When had he ever said such things? However, seeing the skinny young man's icy gaze sweep over, he was too lazy to explain. If he were to explain now, he would undoubtedly appear weaker in terms of presence. And Duan Ling Tian, sitting by the side, Although he didn't know what had happened, he had gleaned some clues from the blue-robed young man's words. The other party was clearly slandering Zhang Shouyong. He had known Zhang Shouyong for more than a day or two, and naturally knew that Zhang Shouyong would never say such words. If you're not an opponent yourself, you'll go to any lengths to find others to help. I don't know about others, but you're definitely useless. Duan Ling Tian slightly raised his head, looked at the blue-robed young man, and said indifferently, "What did you say?" The blue-robed young man's expression changed, and he glared at Duan Ling Tian, his elemental energy raging. However, he didn't dare to make a move, his wary gaze sweeping over Zhang Shouyong that he knew very well that unless Zhang Shouyong was tied up by the person beside him, he couldn't possibly harm this purple-robed young man who called him useless. So, although he was angry, he could only endure it for now. "Kid, I will tear you to pieces." The blue-robed young man's violent elemental energy condensed into a sound, piercing fiercely into Duan Ling Tian's ears. Duan Ling Tian smiled at a 9th-level void initiation stage martial artist wanting to tear him to pieces. "You said you want to tear me to pieces?" Duan Ling Tian looked at the blue-robed young man, a teasing smile playing on the corner of his lips. "Then why aren't you making a move? Or perhaps, you are wary of my brother Zhang, so you dare not make a move? If that's really the case, I can guarantee that if you make a move, brother Zhang will definitely not interfere." Duan Ling Tian's words directly exposed the blue-robed young man's thoughts. "You." The blue-clad youth's expression changed. Then he sneered. "Kid, I didn't expect you to be so arrogant at such a young age. You're just a greenhorn, yet you dare to challenge me?" Smack. A crisp slap echoed instantly, leaving a bright red handprint on the blue-clad youth's face. "Clean up your mouth." It was Duan Ling Tian who had risen from his seat, slapped him, and then sat back down. The blue-clad youth only felt a blur before his eyes and received a slap, completely unable to react. You. The blue-clad youth's eyes were bloodshot with rage, but despite his extreme anger, he dared not make a move that he wasn't a fool. The speed the other party had just displayed was far beyond his own. Standing nearby, the thin youth, who had originally been eyeing Zhang Shouyong menacingly, looked at Duan Ling Tian with apprehension. "Your Excellency, at such a young age, you possess such cultivation. May I ask if you are also here to participate in the 10 Dynasty martial arts meet?" Duan Ling Tian ignored the thin youth's question, calling a waiter over to order food. For a moment, the thin youth's face alternated between green and white, but in the end, he didn't flare up. The speed the other party had just shown made him vaguely aware of their formidable cultivation. He had no confidence in defeating them. Taking a deep breath, the thin youth turned and left. Seeing that his backer had left, the blue-clad youth quickly turned and followed, fearing that Duan Ling Tian and Zhang Shouyong would settle scores with him. "Brother Ling Tian, your cultivation." After the two young men from the Great Chu dynasty left, Zhang Shouyong looked at Duan Ling Tian, his face blank with astonishment. Even he hadn't been able to clearly see Duan Ling Tian's speed when he made his move just now. "Second level of the void. Prying stage," Duan Ling Tian said with a slight smile. "Second level of the void prying stage?" Instantly, Zhang Shouyong was dumbfounded. Only Feng Tianwu, who already knew about Duan Ling Tian's breakthrough to the second level of the void prying stage, was not surprised. "Although I was mentally prepared that you would eventually surpass me in cultivation, I didn't expect you to break through from the 9th level of the void initiation stage to this second level of the void prying stage in such a short time." After Zhang Shouyong recovered, he couldn't help but sigh. Duan Ling Tian's martial arts talent made him feel a sense of powerlessness from the bottom of his heart. Although he was considered a martial arts genius among the contemporary young generation of the Great Han Dynasty, in front of Duan Ling Tian, his meager talent was nothing. After the three of them finished their meal, they unanimously agreed to wander around this desert ancient city for a bit, and then return to Kangwolf Fortress. "I heard long ago that gold and silver don't circulate in the outer domain, and it turns out to be true. This meal alone cost 1 low-grade origin stone. That's too exorbitant," Zhang Shouyong exclaimed as they walked out of the restaurant. Duan Ling Tian smiled and said nothing more that if he were to let this brother Zhang eat a meal at the best restaurants, in some prosperous cities in the central region of Cloud Continent. He might curse that I in those places. Even the most ordinary dishes cost several mid-grade origin stones. Better dishes even required high-grade origin stones. After leaving the restaurant, the three began to stroll along the main street of this desert ancient city, feeling that the air here was somewhat different from that of the Great Han Dynasty. The heaven and earth origin energy here seems to be richer. After a while, Zhang Shouyong couldn't help but exclaim, as if he had discovered a new continent. Indeed, Feng Tianwu heard him, felt the heaven and earth origin energy in the air, and nodded. Duan Ling Tian didn't speak, because he had already noticed it. Moreover, having integrated the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, he wasn't surprised by this. In Cloud Continent, the closer one was to the central region. The richer the heaven and earth origin energy was in the central region of Cloud Continent. The richness of heaven and earth origin energy in any given place was no less than that of an ordinary spirit vein location in the Great Han Dynasty. All of this was due to the extremely abundant origin stone veins in the central region of Cloud Continent. There were even many high-grade origin stone veins controlled by some top forces in Cloud Continent. These origin stone veins emitted extremely rich heaven and earth origin energy, which gathered together, making the heaven and earth origin energy in the air of the central region of Cloud Continent extremely abundant. Hiss. Zhang Shouyong took a deep breath, casually took out the wine gourd from his waist, took a few gulps, then exhaled, a look of pleasure on his face. Brother Zhang truly can't be without his wine. Feng Tianwu laughed. Gallop. Suddenly, Duan Ling Tian heard a cold, sharp shout from behind him, followed by the urgent sound of horse hooves approaching rapidly. Duan Ling Tian and the other two couldn't help but turn their heads to look. They saw a blood-sweating steed galloping wildly on the main road, kicking up dust wherever it went. Pedestrians scattered, fearing they would be hit on the blood-sweating steed, said a young man, about 25 years old, dressed in a gold-embroidered white robe that fluttered in the wind. The horsewhip in his hand moved like a dancing spirit snake. Get out of the way. Suddenly, the young man shouted coldly. A woman with a child, unable to get out of the way in time, remained in the middle of the road, looking at the galloping, blood-sweating steed with a face full of panic. Whoosh. The horsewhip cut through the air, fiercely striking the woman's body, tearing her coarse cloth clothes and leaving her skin lacerated. The woman screamed, was directly whipped away, and fell heavily by the roadside. Her child, standing in the middle of the road, was gazing at the approaching blood-sweating steed with innocent eyes, completely unaware of the impending danger. Watch out. A fiery red lightning bolt flashed past. It was Feng Tianwu, beside Duan Ling Tian, who made her move. Before the blood-sweating steed could reach them, she had already brought the child to the roadside. Nay. And at this moment, the young man galloping on his horse instantly brought the blood-sweating steed to a halt, looking up at Feng Tianwu. Nay. Nay. At the same time, several more blood-sweating steeds stopped behind the young man. Clearly his attendants, which indicated that the young man's background was not simple. Even the weakest force in this desert ancient city would not be truly weak. Moreover, since the young man dared to gallop and commit violence on the street, the force behind him was clearly not simple. Otherwise, how could he be so arrogant? A meddlesome woman. After seeing Feng Tianwu's peerless beauty, the young man's eyes filled with greedy, lecherous desire, and then he coldly shouted, "Take her back. This young master will teach her some manners." In his words, he intended to forcibly abduct the woman. His several attendants behind him seemed to be accustomed to this, and they rode forward, intending to seize Feng Tianwu. Sweeping gale. Duan Ling Tian moved. In an instant, he caught up with the young man's attendants. With a raise of his hand, a terrifying force swept out, directly knocking them off their horses, causing them to cry out in pain. "Kid, you dare to meddle in my affairs. You're seeking death." The young man was furious when he saw someone interfering with his plans. He rode forward, his horsewhip transforming into a bolt of lightning, fiercely striking at Duan Ling Tian. "I think you're seeking death." At this moment, Feng Tianwu, who had just brought the child to the injured woman, moved like a ball of fire, rushing out. The next moment, she was already in front of Duan Ling Tian, casually raising her hand and grabbing the horsewhip the young man had lashed out. Bitch, you're seeking death. The young man's eyes turned cold, and he shook the horsewhip, trying to pull it back from Feng Tianwu's hand. Unfortunately, no matter how hard he tried, the half of the horsewhip held by Feng Tianwu remained motionless, galloping wildly, forcibly abducting women. A profligate like you deserves to die 10,000 deaths. Feng Tianwu's autumn eyes gleamed with coldness. With a flick of her hand, the horsewhip trembled and instantly flew out, fiercely striking the young man's chest, sending him flying off his horse. Ah! The young man screamed, falling to the ground in a sorry state. After a while, he crawled up, glaring at Feng Tianwu with hatred, and furiously shouted, "You guys, kill this bitch. If she doesn't die, then you will die." Immediately, the several attendants who had just been knocked to the ground by Duan Ling Tian rushed towards Feng Tianwu, as if their lives depended on it. Unfortunately, their outcomes were all the same. In front of Feng Tianwu, who was at the first level of the void prying stage. Although they all possessed considerable void initiation stage strength, they were all easily stopped and sent flying by Feng Tianwu. Boom, boom, boom. In a short while, the young man's several attendants lay scattered around him, making the young man's face turn ashen with rage. A bunch of useless trash. The young man cursed his attendants, then looked at Feng Tianwu, his eyes glinting with cold light. Bitch, you dare to lay hands on me. Do you know who I am? I don't care who you are. Committing violence in the street, forcibly abducting women, you deserve to die. Feng Tianwu roared, poised to strike again. Immediately, the young man was so frightened that his face turned pale. He abandoned his horse and fled, not even caring about his attendants, and was far away in a moment. You guys just wait. You guys just wait. The young man ran into the distance, not forgetting to threaten Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu. His voice drifted from afar, filled with extreme coldness. I'll kill him. Seeing that the young man had run away but still threatened them, Feng Tianwu was instantly furious. She moved, preparing to give chase. Tianwu. Duan Ling Tian called out to Feng Tianwu, shaking his head. Don't pursue a cornered foe. If he really dares to come again, I'll be the first to kill him. That guy's background must not be simple. Daring to act recklessly in desert ancient city. Zhang Shouyong came to Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu's side. Guessing. The three of you. You should leave quickly. That person is the eldest young master of our desert ancient cities, Donghua family, and also the most beloved grandson of the Donghua family's patriarch. Since you've taught him a lesson, he won't let it go. After a while, a kind-hearted passerby couldn't help but advise. Yes, the three of you should leave quickly. Many passersby also advised. It's probably too late. Duan Ling Tian raised his eyebrows and looked in the direction the young man had left this moment. In the sky above that area, a series of piercing wind howls could be heard, growing closer and closer. Not long after, 5 flying demonic beasts flew over, arriving above Duan Ling Tian and the other 2 in the blink of an eye. Circling in the air with an imposing aura, Duan Ling Tian and the other 2 looked up and immediately saw the young man in the gold-embroidered white robe, sitting on the leading flying demonic beast. His stern eyes, filled with chilling, killing intent, swept down from the sky, locking tightly onto Duan Ling Tian and the other 2. It's them. The young man shouted coldly, his origin energy surging, and the flying demonic beast beneath him was also poised to strike. Above the void, ancient horned dragon phantoms appeared, winding down with an unstoppable momentum. 9th level void prying stage demonic beast. Duan Ling Tian raised an eyebrow, surprised that this young man, a mere 7th level void prying stage martial artist, could control a demonic beast 2 levels stronger than himself. It seemed that the Donghua family was not simple. As soon as the young man finished speaking, the other 4 flying demonic beasts gathered with the one beneath him. 5 9th level void prying stage flying demonic beasts stared coldly at Duan Ling Tian and the other 2. They were just waiting for the young man's command to pounce on Duan Ling Tian and the others. Fighting to the death. Duan Ling Tian didn't pay attention to these 5 9th level void prying stage flying demonic beasts. His gaze fell on the backs of the four other flying demonic beasts there. Four stern-faced middle-aged men stood, each dressed in black, expressionless, like four living dead men. Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force extended, and he immediately detected the cultivation of the four men. All of them are at the fourth-level void transformation stage. Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but gasp that he hadn't expected that the Donghua family behind the young man, who had just been taught a lesson by Tian Wu, would have such a strong foundation. Even their ordinary family guards possessed the strength of the fourth-level void transformation stage. As for their top-tier experts, their strength was not hard to imagine. They must be extremely formidable. Around Duan Ling Tian and the other two, the passers-by quickly retreated to the side. They looked at the four flying demonic beasts in the sky and the people on them. Their eyes filled with fear. In their opinion, these three kind young people were in trouble. The Donghua family was one of the three great families in ancient Desert City. Among the many forces in ancient Desert City, they were second only to the Azure Wolf Fort, which controlled ancient Desert City. Of course, not to mention in ancient Desert City, even in the surrounding areas, Azure Wolf Fort could be considered a hegemon. If Azure Wolf Fort wanted to destroy the three great families of ancient Desert City, they would only need to dispatch a vice fort master to slaughter them all. The three great families of ancient Desert City, in the eyes of ordinary people, were incredibly powerful, but in the eyes of Azure Wolf Fort, they were like ants, easily crushed. Azure Wolf Fort was a behemoth in this corner of the outer realm. Even if all the experts from the 10 southern dynasties came out, and even allied with the three great families of ancient Desert City, they would hardly be able to shake it in the slightest. The power of Azure Wolf Fort was self-evident. However, although the three great families of ancient Desert City were nothing in front of Azure Wolf Fort, any one of them was incomparable to the 10 southern dynasties. Any one of these families, if all their experts were to come out, would be enough to annihilate the 10 dynasties. The family forces of the outer realm were by no means comparable to the forces of the 10 dynasties in ancient Desert City. Azure Wolf Fort occupied a dominant position, its status transcendent and unshakable. However, precisely because of this, Azure Wolf Fort rarely interfered in the affairs of ancient Desert City. Everything in ancient Desert City, such as various businesses and the mid-grade Origin Stone Mine, was divided and controlled by the three great families, and more than 90% of the profits obtained by the three great families in ancient Desert City had to be handed over to Azure Wolf Fort. Regardless of Azure Wolf Fort, the three great families were the three behemoths of ancient Desert City, and no one dared to provoke them. When the tiger sleeps, the monkey becomes king. That was exactly the case. And today, the young master of the Donghua family, one of the three great families, led the Donghua family guards, intending to kill three young people. No one believed that the latter could survive. They had seen many similar scenes, and the results were all largely the same. None of those who offended the young master of the Donghua family had ever survived. In their opinion, today would be no exception. Thud. Suddenly, a figure flashed out. It was the woman who had just been whipped away by the young master of the Donghua family, kneeling on the ground with her child. Young Master Han, please, you are a great man. Forgive them. The woman spoke while kowtowing, pleading for Duan Ling Tian and the other two. Soon, her head was bleeding. Kill this lowly commoner. Just as Duan Ling Tian and the others were startled by the woman's actions and hadn't reacted in time, Donghua Han shouted coldly, "Oh no!" Duan Ling Tian was the first to react, his face changing drastically. Unfortunately, it was still too late. One of the Donghua family guards standing on the back of the 9th level void prying stage demonic beast instantly struck. A vast palm print descended, directly obliterating the woman and her child, staining the ground with blood. The terrifying palm print landed on the ground, causing numerous hideous cracks to appear, crisscrossing like a spiderweb. You deserve to die. The scene before him completely stunned Duan Ling Tian. After a moment, his eyes turned blood red, and he stared intently at Donghua Han, wishing he could grind him to dust. "I'm going to kill you." Feng Tian Wu was enraged, her beautiful face changing color. Towering flames surged around her, and her entire being seemed to transform into a ball of fire, sweeping towards Dong Wahan. She had never expected that the mother of the child she had saved would kowtow and beg Dong Wahan for their sake. Even more unexpectedly, Dong Wahan had directly ordered his subordinate guards to kill the mother and child. That child was only 4 or 5 years old and had not yet had a chance to truly see the world before being killed. Feng Tian. Wu's rage at this moment was almost enough to set the plains ablaze. To not even spare a woman and child. You beast! Zhang Shouyang's face turned cold, his eyes flickering with chilling fury. He pushed off the ground with his legs, and his entire body transformed into a bolt of lightning, rushing to assist Feng Tianwu. Neither Feng Tianwu nor Zhang Shouyang knew the terrifying strength of the 4 guards Dong Wahan had brought. However, even if they knew, they wouldn't back down. Boom! A 4th-level void transformation stage guard beside Dong Wahan made his move. A terrifying force swept out, instantly repelling Feng Tianwu and Zhang Shouyang. The two of them landed awkwardly beside Duan Lingtian, looking at the ancient horned dragon phantoms filling the sky above. Their eyes filled with horror. 4th-level void transformation stage. Ha ha! Seeing the expressions on Feng Tianwu and Zhang Shouyang's faces, Dong Wahan laughed wildly. Aren't you very arrogant? Aren't you going to meddle in my business? Meddle then, come on. How about it? Now, do you feel regret and fear in your hearts? Dong Wahan stood on the flying demonic beast, surrounded by the 4 4th-level void transformation stage guards. Appearing high and mighty as he looked down at Duan Lingtian and the other 2. Feng Tianwu and Zhang Shouyang remained silent, merely staring coldly at Dong Wahan. Regret? Fear. Duan Lingtian, who had only initially dealt with Dong Wahan's attendants and had not made a move since, glanced indifferently at Dong Wahan. I have never known what regret or fear is. If I really had to say I regret something, I only regret not chasing after you and crippling you just now. By the end, Duan Lingtian's voice had grown several shades colder. Whoosh. Duan Lingtian's words left the onlookers dumbfounded. Was this young man looking for death? After a moment's thought, they understood, given the current situation. Even if this young man begged for mercy, with the young master of the Donghua family's temper, he probably wouldn't survive. Now, his best choice was to maintain his dignity before he died. Better to die standing than live on your knees. Good, good. Dong Wahan's face turned ashen upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, and he laughed in extreme anger. He had never expected that even at this point, this purple-clad young man would still dare to speak to him like that. He simply didn't know how to write the word death. Suddenly, a cold light flashed in Dong Wahan's eyes, and he directly ordered, "Leave this woman. I want to take her back and have some fun. As for the other 2 men, kill them directly." Swish, 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 swish. Almost at the instant Dong Wahan gave the order, the other 4 flying demonic beasts pounced towards Duan Lingtian and the other 2. Their sharp claws, glinting with cold light, struck at the heads of Duan Lingtian and Zhang Shouyang to AS for the 4 4th-level void transformation stage guards on the backs of the flying demonic beasts. One of them locked his gaze on Feng Tianwu, while the other 3 focused on Duan Lingtian and Zhang Shouyang. Let's retreat. Feng Tianwu shouted softly, calling for Duan Lingtian and Zhang Shouyang to fall back. In her hand, a crystal-clear pearl appeared, the very pearl inscribed with this sensing inscription. As long as she crushed it, her father, Feng Wu Dao, would sense it immediately and rush over. Tianwu. However, Duan Lingtian stopped Feng Tianwu, shaking his head at her, immediately after. Under Feng Tianwu's stunned gaze, Duan Lingtian soared into the air, fearlessly meeting the 4 pouncing flying demonic beasts and directly confronting the 4 4th-level void transformation stage experts. Brother Duan. Feng Tianwu's face changed drastically. Disregarding Duan Lingtian's words, she crushed the pearl in her hand without hesitation. Although this pearl was precious, in her eyes, it was far less valuable than Duan Lingtian's life at this moment. She was extremely anxious, only hoping her father could arrive as quickly as possible. No. Just then, Feng Tianwu saw Duan Lingtian about to cross paths with the 4 flying demonic beasts, and her beautiful face couldn't help but change, letting out a terrified cry. Without any hesitation, Feng Tianwu rose into the air, fearlessly chasing after Duan Ling Tian. Asterisk as Duan Ling Tian faced danger, Feng Tianwu's mind went blank. She only knew that Duan Ling Tian could not be harmed, that it was as if she was about to lose something important. The feeling was one of discomfort and oppression. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. For massive avian demonic beasts with their sharp talons fiercely clawed at Duan Ling Tian as he charged forward, their eyes filled with genuine disdain in their opinion. Such a young human martial artist daring to act so arrogantly in front of them was simply courting death. The 4 Donghua family retainers, who were at the void prying stage, 4th level, and riding on the backs of the 4 avian demonic beasts, also looked at Duan Ling Tian with contempt as he rushed towards them. Kill him. From high above, Donghua Han roared. Yes, young master. Immediately, the 4 Donghua family retainers flew out, as if transforming into 4 eagles, soaring directly towards Duan Ling Tian with fierce momentum. Courting death. Duan Ling Tian's gaze grew cold, a hint of disdain playing on his lips, and a faint glow flickered deep within his eyes as his cultivation advanced to the void prying stage, 2nd level, his spiritual energy, which had also risen to the void prying stage, 4th level, instantly surged into the soul imprint deep within his soul, directly activating his exclusive soul skill point 1000 illusions. In an instant, an illusionary space appeared out of thin air, continuously expanding, directly enveloping the 4 fierce void prying stage, 9th level avian demonic beasts and the 4 Donghua family retainers. Just as the attacks from the 4 Donghua family retainers were about to land on Duan Ling Tian, they suddenly seemed to lose their target and turned around. Immediately after, a fierce glint flashed in their eyes, and one by one, they pounced on the void prying stage, 9th level avian demonic beasts that had carried them there. The 4 void prying stage, 9th level avian demonic beasts also had fierce glints in their eyes, and facing the 4 void prying stage, 4th level martial artists who were pouncing on them, they reacted as if they had seen Duan Ling Tian directly lunging forward. Boom. In a single exchange, 1 void prying stage, 9th level avian demonic beast was killed by a Donghua family retainer. Boom, boom, boom. Immediately after, the other 3 void prying stage, 9th level avian demonic beasts were also killed by the other 3 Donghua family retainers. 4 void prying stage, 4th level Donghua family retainers to kill 4 void prying stage, 9th level avian demonic beasts was as simple as slaughtering chickens or cutting grass. The latter had no power to resist in front of them, like lambs awaiting slaughter or fish on a chopping block. Utterly vulnerable, Duan Ling Tian stood in the void, watching the scene before him with cold eyes it was as if everything happening before him had nothing to do with him. Whoosh. At this moment, Feng Tianwu also landed beside Duan Ling Tian, and the scene before her equally filled her with horror. What are you doing? High above, Donghua Han's face changed drastically as he roared in anger. Everything before him made his scalp tingle. Had these 4 guys gone mad? They were actually fighting their own demonic beasts. The surrounding crowd also burst into an uproar. What are they doing? Aren't they from the Donghua family? Why are they attacking their own family's demonic beasts? Have they gone mad? And all of them at once. Everyone was baffled. However, the next moment, something even more perplexing happened, causing their pupils to involuntarily constrict. Heavens! What did they just see? The 4 Donghua family retainers, who had just killed the 4 void prying stage, 9th level avian demonic beasts, showed no intention of stopping after each had killed 1 demonic beast. Their elemental energy surged, and their void prying intent merged with their elemental energy, becoming completely materialized. Immediately after, they pounced on their former comrades. Engaging in a bloody struggle, the melee began. Boom, 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 boom. The 4 Donghua family retainers, each acting as if they had lost their minds, furiously attacked each other. Moments later, all 4 were severely wounded. Even so, they continued to fight each other desperately, as if they wouldn't rest until the other was dead. Everyone, including Feng Tianwu and Zhang Shouyong, was stunned. Stop! Stop! And now, Donghua Han, standing on the only remaining, trembling void prying stage, 9th level avian demonic beast, had an incredibly grim expression, constantly roaring at the four retainers, as if trying to wake them up. Unfortunately, the four retainers continued to slaughter each other, as if they couldn't hear him at all. How could this happen? Who can tell me what the hell is going on? Donghua Han's face was extremely ugly. He had no idea what was happening before him. Why his four Donghua family retainers were fighting amongst themselves? Had they all gone mad? Soon, Donghua Han's expression changed. This was because Duan Ling Tian had already appeared before him, looking calm, and spoke faintly. You're the young master of the Donghua family, aren't you? Kill him, Donghua Han roared, urging the avian demonic beast beneath him, wanting it to attack and kill Duan Ling Tian. Unfortunately, the avian demonic beast had just lunged forward when it was slain by Duan Ling Tian's 3-foot-long azure sword, formed from elemental energy, taking only an instant from start to finish. The avian demonic beast died and fell. Donghua Han was stunned, staring blankly at Duan Ling Tian, saying with some disbelief, "You're actually a void-prying stage martial artist." Evidently, he had only now truly perceived Duan Ling Tian's real strength, which far surpassed his own. Now, it's your turn. Duan Ling Tian looked at Donghua Han calmly, his eyes devoid of any emotion. You dare to kill me? Let me tell you, if you dare to kill me, no matter who you are, no matter if you go to heaven or hell, you will surely die. Let me tell you, my grandfather is. Upon hearing Duan Ling Tian's words, Donghua Han's face changed drastically, threatening Duan Ling Tian in his speech. Unfortunately, he couldn't finish his sentence, because the sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand had already pierced his throat, sending up a shower of dazzling, vibrant blood that splattered across the sky, forming clusters of red roses. Whoosh. And just as Duan Ling Tian killed Donghua Han, a figure appeared out of thin air in the sky not far away. The newcomer looked at the scene before him, completely stunned. This is Father. Feng Tianwu flew out and reached the newcomer's side. Tianwu, you used this sense bead I left for you, just to have me watch a show? Looking at the chaotic scene, Feng Wu Dao couldn't help but smile bitterly. Feng Tianwu also gave a wry smile. I didn't expect Brother Duan to be able to deal with these people. Those four were all void-prying stage, 4th-level existences. As Feng Tianwu spoke, she looked at the four Donghua family retainers who were still fighting each other. The four retainers, severely wounded, were still battling fiercely, their eyes completely bloodshot. Let's go. Duan Ling Tian nodded to Zhang Shouyong, then went to Feng Wu Dao and his daughter's side. Immediately after, the four of them left directly, returning to Kangwol Fortress. On the way, Zhang Shouyong couldn't help but glance sideways at Duan Ling Tian, and thinking of the scene that had just occurred, his heart was inevitably filled with shock. Brother Ling Tian is already so powerful. Four void-prying stage, 4th-level martial artists were all provoked by him into fighting each other. Duan Ling Tian, on the other hand, let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, those four void-prying stage, 4th-level guys weren't inscription masters. Otherwise, the illusionary space created by my soul skill, 1,000 illusions, wouldn't have been able to interfere with them at all. Duan Ling Tian secretly congratulated himself. Tianwu, what exactly happened? Feng Wu Dao couldn't help but ask Feng Tianwu. Everything had already ended by the time he arrived. Because of this, he hadn't had time to understand what had happened. Nothing. Feng Tianwu shook her head. Just killed a profligate young master. That profligate young master even killed defenseless women and children. He deserved to die 1,000 deaths. Towards the end, Feng Tianwu's face showed anger, as if she was recalling the scene again. At that time, if the woman hadn't brought her child out to plead for them, they wouldn't have been killed. This filled Feng Tianwu with guilt, sensing that the atmosphere seemed a bit heavy. Feng Wu Dao didn't ask further, but a few more traces of apprehension appeared deep within his eyes. Profligate young master? This was not the 10 dynasties. Although the ancient desert city was located on the border of the outer domain, it still belonged to the outer domain, where experts were as numerous as clouds. And even an ordinary force possessed extremely terrifying power. And the forces behind the profligate young masters in ancient desert city must also be extraordinary. However, thinking that they were all currently residing in Kangwolf Fortress, he felt relieved again that no matter how strong the forces in ancient desert city were, they were merely vassals of Kangwolf Fortress and would absolutely not dare to easily break into Kangwolf Fortress to cause trouble. Therefore, he put his mind at ease. Of course, this was also because Feng Wu Dao did not know that the person who had just died was the young master of the Dongwu family, one of the three great families of ancient desert city. Otherwise, he would not have been so calm. Perhaps ordinary members of the Dongwu family would not dare to directly invade Kangwolf Fortress for revenge. But their patriarch could certainly speak to the higher-ups of Kangwolf Fortress, as Duan Ling Tian left. The illusionary space created by the soul skill, thousand illusions naturally dissipated at the same time. The four Dongwu family retainers, who had been fighting each other with their heavily injured bodies, finally broke free from the illusionary space. With a single glance, they saw each other's severe injuries. What's going on? How did you all get such severe injuries? I never expected that kid to be so terrifying. Something seems wrong. Unconsciously, the gazes of the four Dongwu family retainers first fell upon the five massive avian demonic beast corpses on the ground, and then upon a human corpse. Seeing this corpse, their pupils instantly constricted, and they couldn't help but exclaim in shock, "Young master!" Immediately after, the four looked at each other, and all saw fear in each other's eyes. If the patriarch finds out that the young master was killed under our protection, and we are still alive, we will surely die. Quick, let's quickly take the pills to heal our injuries, and then leave this ancient desert city far behind. Under the astonished gazes of the onlookers, the four family guards of the Dongwu family, after taking the healing pills, left directly. The direction they left was not the direction of the Dongwu family. Now, they only had one thought. That was to go as far as possible, never to return to ancient desert city. Only by doing so could they escape the Dongwu family's pursuit. However, although the four family guards of the Dongwu family escaped, the news of the Dongwu family's eldest young master, Dongwu Han, being killed still reached the Dongwu family. The Dongwu family, one of the three major families in ancient desert city, controlled a part of ancient desert city. At this moment, in the vast lake within the Dongwu family's mansion, on one side of the pavilion in the center of the lake, an old man sat quietly, holding a fishing rod and fishing. Although the old man was fishing, his eyes were tightly closed, looking very leisurely and content. This old man looked no different from an ordinary old man. Suddenly, the old man opened his eyes, and a sharp glint flashed through them. Whoosh! At the same time, the old man's hand holding the fishing rod twitched, and he directly pulled up the rod. A large fish was caught and happened to be thrown into the bamboo basket beside him. If anyone were here and saw the hook on the fishing rod in the old man's hand, they would surely be greatly astonished, because this fish hook was straight. If Duan Ling Tian were here and saw this scene, he would definitely be reminded of the ancient legend of Jiang Taigong fishing that has been passed down on Earth in his previous life. Jiang Taigong fished, and those who wished to be caught took the bait, and the fish hook Jiang Taigong used was straight. Finally caught it. Today, Honor will have a good meal. The old man smiled slightly and murmured to himself. When he spoke the words Honor, his cloudy eyes revealed a deep, doting affection. Throughout his life, he had a difficult fate, and his son died young. He only left him with one grandson, who was, in a sense, the sole heir. Because of this, he doted on and loved that grandson, wishing he could give him the best things in the world. It was also because of that grandson that he had always held the position of patriarch of the Dongwu family. Because he planned to pass this position on to his grandson in the future, he placed his greatest hopes on his grandson, and his grandson did not disappoint him. Although he was somewhat profligate, his talent and comprehension were both good. As for being profligate, he didn't take it to heart. Who doesn't have a wild youth? Moreover, he had the capital to allow his grandson to be profligate in ancient desert city, and he wasn't worried at all that anyone would dare to provoke his grandson. Suddenly, the old man's eyebrows twitched. He saw a figure rushing towards the pavilion in the lake in a panic. Didn't I say that when I'm fishing, I don't like to be disturbed? The old man's face darkened. As he spoke, a powerful aura emanated from him, enveloping the approaching person and pressing down on them, making them involuntarily bend at the waist. The person who came was an old woman, the housekeeper of the Dongwa family. Her face was extremely pale, and she seemed to hesitate to speak. Seeing the old woman's expression, the old man's face sank. The old woman had served the Dongwa family her entire life. He knew her well. If it weren't for something incredibly important, the old woman would not be so flustered. What? What major event has happened? The old man asked. Hearing the old man's words, the old woman took a deep breath. Only then did she say with a trembling voice, "Pat, Patriarch, young master. Young master, he..." What happened to the young master? The old man's aura instantly grew stronger, pressing down on the old woman, causing her to break out in a cold sweat and tremble uncontrollably. The old man's gaze was like a sword, as if it could pierce through the old woman's body. "Patriarch, please accept my condolences and take care of yourself." Finally, the old woman caught her breath and said with her head bowed, "Accept my condolences and take care of yourself?" Hearing the old woman's words, the old man's body trembled. In an instant, a terrifying aura emanated from him. The next moment, around the pavilion in the lake, terrifying hurricanes suddenly arose. The hurricanes became faster and faster, finally transforming into solid wind blades. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The old man's rage caused wind blades to sweep up, instantly shredding the entire lake pavilion into pieces, which then collapsed into the vast lake. The large lake pavilion ceased to exist in an instant. Not only that, at this moment, all the water in the lake was enveloped by terrifying gales, which then swept up, as if transforming into roaring water dragons at this moment. Only the old man and the old woman were unaffected. The old woman kept her head down, not daring to speak again. She could deeply and clearly feel the patriarch's monstrous anger, and she had no doubt that if she dared to speak more at this moment, she would very likely become the target of the patriarch's venting. "Lead the way," the old man coldly shouted, raised his hand, and taking the old woman with him, instantly disappeared above the vast lake. At this point, the churning lake water returned to calm. Who did it? In the main hall of the Dongwa family, many high-ranking members of the Dongwa family were gathered. Seeing the old man rush in, roaring, they couldn't help but sigh. "Hunter." The old man stood beside the corpse lying on the ground, looking at the body with a sword through its throat, his eyes flashing with a fierce light. "Don't tell me. You haven't found out who did it." The old man's words were filled with extreme coldness, making everyone present shiver involuntarily. "Patriarch, he is one of the eyewitnesses." Soon, the old woman, who had followed, walked in with a young man who was bowing his head and said to the old man. Hearing this, the old man's sword-like gaze fell on the young man, and his aura swept out with it. Boom! Enveloped by the old man's aura, the young man's face instantly turned red, then he collapsed to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of clotted blood with a wah sound, looking at the old man with a terrified expression. "Speak." The old man's cold voice, full of killing intent, made the young man feel as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. Without any hesitation, he hurriedly recounted the scene he had witnessed not long ago. Initially, young Master Han rode his horse, using his whip to strike a woman, whose child stood on the main road, about to die under the horse's hooves. At this moment, a woman in red intervened and saved the child. Then, young Master Han. The young man was a passerby who had witnessed the entire process that day. He recounted every scene he had seen, word for word. Whoosh! As soon as the young man finished speaking, a terrifying aura surged from the old man, pressing down on the high-ranking members of the Dongwa family present, making them involuntarily retreat several steps. As for the young man, he was directly blasted away, his head hitting the main pillar of the hall, dying instantly. Perhaps even the young man himself hadn't expected to die such a suffocating death. The reason he came to the Dongwa family to report was precisely for the Dongwa family's reward, but now, he died unjustly before even receiving the deserved reward. Good. Very good. To dare to kill my grandson, Dongwa Lei, that purple-clothed boy seems to be tired of living. The old man, who was the patriarch of the Dongwa family, Dongwalet, spoke with a voice like thunder, which spread out, causing the eardrums of some lower cultivation Dongwa family high-ranking members present to tremble, and their expressions all changed. First elder, I give you 1 day. After 1 day, I want to see the heads of those 4 traitors. Dongwale looked at a white-haired old man and said in a deep voice, Yes, patriarch. The old man respectfully responded, turned, and left like a flash of lightning, going to work. The rest of you. Immediately after, Dongwale looked at the remaining high-ranking members of the Dongwa family, his eyes flashing with killing intent. Your task is to investigate the identity of the purple-clothed boy who killed my grandson. Once you find his whereabouts, bring him back. I want him alive. As for his 3 companions, kill them directly. The first person to find out the identity of the purple-clothed boy will receive 1,000 mid-grade origin stones. The person who brings back the purple-clothed boy will receive 10,000 mid-grade origin stones. Additionally, the person who brings back the head of any one of the purple-clothed boy's 3 companions will receive 1,000 mid-grade origin stones. Dongwale's words issued an internal family bounty. This was enough to show his urgent desire to avenge his grandson. Yes, everyone's eyes lit up, and after respectfully responding, they left impatiently. Everyone hoped to receive the bounty promised by the patriarch. The person who brings back the purple-clothed boy will receive 10,000 mid-grade origin stones, 10,000 lower-grade origin stones. Even the second elder, third elder, and other high-ranking elders in the Dongwa family eagerly wanted to obtain them. As Dongwa Lei gave the order, the entire Dongwa family mobilized. The entire ancient desert city went completely insane. Meanwhile, the person involved, Duan Ling Tian, was currently quietly staying in the Narcissus Pavilion within the Azure Wolf Fort, diligently cultivating 9 Dragon War Sovereign Technique, Sword Dragon Transformation. As the potent medicinal power of the Nirvana pill dissipated within his body, Duan Ling Tian's origin energy increased at an extremely terrifying speed. This speed was enough to make any martial artist on Cloud Continent feel ashamed, even inferior. At this rate, in at most 2 or 3 months, I should be able to successfully break through to the Void Prying Stage 3. Feeling the rapid increase in his origin energy, Duan Ling Tian thought to himself, as my origin energy increases, that incarnate sword intent also seems to be nearing the moment of transformation. There are still 3 days until the 10 Dynasty Martial Competition begins. Duan Ling Tian continued to cultivating for the sake of the sword intent. Finally, another day passed out. On this day, Duan Ling Tian awoke from his cultivation, opening his eyes, in which a faint sword light seemed to flash, filled with sharpness and a formidable aura. Whoosh! As Duan Ling Tian raised his hand, origin energy condensed into a sword, on which wisps of formidable aura flickered, emitting faint sword cries at the same time. Beside the 300 ancient horned dragon phantoms, another ancient horned dragon phantom appeared out of thin air. First-level low-grade sword intent. Finally, I can cultivate the 9 dragon inch glow flash. Duan Ling Tian smiled, and with a raise of his hand, the 3-foot-long azure sword, formed by his origin energy, suddenly vibrated at once. In addition to the streaks of sharp and fierce aura it contained, a wisp of profound azure gang energy intertwined within it. Mixed with purple gang energy and earthy yellow gang energy, the profound azure gang energy, as if divinely aided, merged with the 3-foot-long azure sword formed by origin energy, and the milky white sword gradually transformed into a true 3-foot-long azure sword, entirely azure in color. Now, Duan Ling Tian was like holding a true 3-foot-long azure sword formed by wind, intentional materialization. The 3-foot-long azure sword itself contained Duan Ling Tian's entire origin energy and the first-level intermediate wind intent, emanating the sharp and fierce first-level low-grade sword intent. Additionally, around the 3-foot-long azure sword, 4th-level low-grade thunder intent and 1st-level low-grade earth intent were intertwined. Whoosh! Above Duan Ling Tian's head, the power of heaven and earth fluctuated, finally converging into a heavenly phenomenon. The first 30 ancient horned dragon phantoms that appeared belonged to the heavenly phenomenon triggered by Duan Ling Tian's origin energy. Subsequently, 20 more ancient horned dragon phantoms appeared, which were the heavenly phenomenon triggered by the first-level intermediate wind intent. Finally, for more ancient horned dragon phantoms, one ancient horned dragon phantom and another ancient horned dragon phantom appeared. These respectively belonged to the heavenly phenomena triggered by the fourth-level low-grade thunder intent, first-level low-grade earth intent, and first-level low-grade sword intent, that a total of 56 ancient horned dragon phantoms. The power of 56 ancient horned dragons was the strongest power Duan Ling Tian could unleash without using a spirit weapon. Once he used a spirit weapon, his strength would be even greater. Of course, it could only amplify the power contained within his origin energy, meaning it could only be amplified based on the power of 30 ancient horned dragons. If he used a quasi-emperor grade spirit sword or the demon sealing tablet, it could amplify his power by one-fold, which is the power of 30 ancient horned dragons. If he used a third-grade spirit sword, it could amplify his power by 70%, which is the power of 21 ancient horned dragons. During the 10 Dynasty martial competition, a quasi-emperor grade spirit sword definitely cannot be used. The demon sealing tablet might be usable, but the prerequisite is not to expose its amplification power. Duan Ling Tian's eyes flashed as he thought to himself, what a joke. Whether it was the quasi-emperor grade spirit sword in his hand or the demon sealing tablet, both could amplify power by one-fold. Once exposed, he would undoubtedly become a target. Perhaps even the people from Azure Wolf Fort would harbor greedy intentions for it. Duan Ling Tian knew his limits. Currently, he did not possess the strength to protect the quasi-emperor grade spirit sword and the demon sealing tablet. Additionally, the first-grade spirit sword he obtained from the Sword Emperor's treasure vault could not be used either. This was merely the borderland of the outer realm, let alone a first-grade spirit weapon. Even a second-grade spirit weapon might not exist here. The young prodigies of the 10 dynasties participating in the 10 Dynasty martial competition will at most use third-grade spirit weapons. Therefore, besides not being able to use the quasi-emperor grade spirit sword, demon sealing tablet, and first-grade spirit sword, second-grade spirit weapons also cannot be used. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself after Duan Ling Tian broke through to the void prying stage. His origin energy underwent a tremendous change compared to when he was in the void interpretation stage, as his origin energy transformed. He could also condense stronger artifact flames than in the past. Duan Ling Tian could only condense the third-grade artifact flame, purple copper artifact flame, but now, Duan Ling Tian could condense the second-grade artifact flame, purple silver artifact flame. And with the reincarnation Martial Emperor's lifelong artifact refining experience and techniques, he could easily refine second-grade spirit weapons. Duan Ling Tian had already collected most of the materials required for refining second-grade spirit weapons when he was still in the capital of the Great Han Dynasty. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. With a raise of his hand, Duan Ling Tian took out a large pile of materials, preparing to begin refining artifacts. Sizzle. From Duan Ling Tian's palm, a wisp of purple flame suddenly erupted, subtly intertwined with streaks of silver edges, appearing very dazzling. Immediately after, Duan Ling Tian began to melt a pile of materials. Profound artifact refining techniques came naturally to him. About 3 hours later, a thin, cicada wing-like, verdant soft sword appeared in his hand. Its design remarkably similar to the purple glimmer soft sword. Origin energy flickered in Duan Ling Tian's hand, and the verdant soft sword instantly straightened as origin energy merged into it. Above the void of his head, the power of heaven and earth fluctuated, finally forming a heavenly phenomenon. First, 30 ancient horned dragon phantoms appeared, followed by 24 more ancient horned dragon phantoms. 8/10 amplification. Not bad. Duan Ling Tian contentedly put the second-grade spirit sword into his spatial ring, then opened the door and walked out to the balcony of the pavilion. sitting there quietly to get some air, looking at the vast and magnificent Azure Wolf Fort. Duan Ling Tian's eyes flickered. Along this journey, starting from Qinglin Town, he had unknowingly grown from an ignorant youth to such a height, even about to represent the great Han dynasty and compete with the young prodigies of the other 9 dynasties. In the blink of an eye. It's been over 10 years since I came to this world. Duan Ling Tian sighed. In these 10+ years, he had completely integrated into this world, and everything from his previous life on Earth had become an eternal memory. He was no longer the cold-hearted king of mercenaries from the past, but a flesh-and-blood genius martial artist of the Cloud Continent. 9 Dragon Inch Glow Flash. Duan Ling Tian's eyes flashed, and he began to search the reincarnation Martial Emperor's memories. The Heaven-grade high-tier offensive martial skill, 9 Dragon Inch Glow Flash, recorded in the 7th transformation, Sword Dragon Transformation, of the 9 Dragon War Sovereign Technique, appeared in Duan Ling Tian's mind. The 9 Dragon Inch Glow Flash is activated by Sword Intent and can be used in conjunction with other intents. When cultivated to its peak, it can manifest 9 divine dragons. 9 dragons emerge together, ultimate Inch Glow. This is the perfect realm of the 9 Dragon Inch Glow Flash, like Earth-grade martial skills. Heaven-grade martial skills are also divided into 4 major realms: initial, minor accomplishment, major accomplishment, and perfection. To manifest 1 divine dragon when using the 9 Dragon Inch Glow Flash is considered initial. To manifest 3 divine dragons is minor accomplishment. To manifest 5 divine dragons is major accomplishment. To manifest 9 divine dragons is perfection. The 9 Dragon Inch Glow Flash was created by the Reincarnation Martial Emperor by fusing 2 heaven-grade, high-tier offensive martial skills, and the Reincarnation Martial Emperor had cultivated both of those heaven-grade high-tier offensive martial skills to the perfection realm. Duan Ling Tian muttered to himself while searching the Reincarnation Martial Emperor's memories. Heaven-grade martial skills are different from the martial skills I cultivated before. Heaven-grade martial skills rely more on comprehension and experience. Comprehension needs to come from oneself, but experience can be absorbed from the Reincarnation Martial Emperor. Although he never cultivated the 9 Dragon Inch Glow Flash, he did cultivate the 2 martial skills that were fused to create the 9 Dragon Inch Glow Flash. As the saying goes, all roads lead to Rome, and this was precisely the case. Immediately after, Duan Ling Tian began cultivating the 9 Dragon Inch Glow Flash and quickly found his rhythm. Of course, all of this was thanks to the Reincarnation Martial Emperor's experience. Whoosh. An hour later, Duan Ling Tian raised his hand and pointed with his sword finger. In an instant, his origin energy faintly condensed into a divine dragon, which lunged out with bared fangs and claws, tearing through the sky and compressing the air, creating bursts of piercing sonic booms. This was not the end. Flash. Duan Ling Tian's eyes flashed, and the divine dragon's eyes instantly shot out 2 solid inch glows, whistling out. Under Duan Ling Tian's guidance, they pierced into a large rock outside the Narcissus Pavilion. Instantly, 2 bottomless holes appeared on the rock, and the inch glows that had entered with destructive force disappeared without a trace. Whoosh. Duan Ling Tian moved, flying out to the side of the large rock, and casually pushed it aside. Rumble. After the large rock was pushed aside, Duan Ling Tian saw 2 bottomless holes in the floor. His spiritual force couldn't help but extend out, wanting to probe their depth. Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force extended along the 2 small holes for a quarter of an hour, but still didn't reach the bottom. As expected of a heaven-grade high-tier offensive martial skill, what powerful might! Duan Ling Tian's eyes lit up. 1 dragon can instantly shoot out 2 inch glows. Wouldn't 9 dragons be able to instantly shoot out 18 inch glows? Thinking of this, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but gasp. He had seen the speed and power of the inch glow clearly, with the same power. Even if he used an Earth-grade high-tier offensive martial skill to attack with condensed origin energy, in terms of speed, it would be far inferior to the inch glows shot from the eyes of the divine dragon manifested by the 9 Dragon Inch Glow Flash. Those 2-inch glows just now were too fast, too domineering. Heaven-grade offensive martial skill. Suddenly, a slightly surprised voice entered Duan Ling Tian's ears. Unbeknownst to him, Feng Wu Dao had appeared on the balcony in front of the pavilion. Looking at Duan Ling Tian with astonishment, Uncle Feng, pushing the large rock back to its original position. Duan Ling Tian flew out and landed beside Feng Wu Dao. I was planning to choose a heaven-grade martial skill suitable for intermediate wind intent for you, but now it seems a bit redundant. The heaven-grade martial skill you just used, it should be a heaven-grade intermediate tier offensive martial skill, right? As Feng Wu Dao spoke, his gaze towards Duan Ling Tian was filled with fervor. Heaven-grade martial skills were extremely rare, even in the Feng family of the Great Han Dynasty. Where he belonged, there were only a few sets of heaven-grade low-tier martial skills. Because he had traveled frequently in the past, he had collected quite a few heaven-grade martial skills, but they were all heaven-grade low-tier martial skills. As for heaven-grade intermediate-tier martial skills, as far as he knew, even the imperial family of the Great Han Dynasty didn't have any. Yet he never expected to see one on Duan Ling Tian, that heaven-grade intermediate-tier offensive martial skill. Hearing Feng Wu Dao's words, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but be startled. The 9-dragon-inch glow flash he had just used was not a heaven-grade intermediate-tier offensive martial skill, but a heaven-grade high-tier offensive martial skill. Finally, he nodded. Without revealing the truth, the Donghua family mansion welcomed an uninvited guest today. In the main hall, Donghua Zong, the second elder of the Donghua family, looked at the young man in white and asked directly, "I heard from my subordinates. You know where the person who killed our Donghua family's eldest young master is?" The young man in white glanced at Donghua Zong indifferently. "Are you the second elder of the Donghua family? I'm sorry, but I'm here to see your family head. I'll wait until he arrives before I speak." "You?" Donghua Zong's face changed, and he said in a deep voice, "Kid, do you think our family head is someone you can just meet whenever you want? Go look in a mirror and see what kind of person you are." Facing the angry Donghua Zong, the young man in white remained calm and simply ignored him. "Guards, escort him out." Ignored, Donghua Zong's face darkened, and he roared. Immediately, outside the main hall, 2 Donghua family guards walked in, went directly to the young man in white, and made a gesture. "Please leave. Second elder, I'm telling you, if I leave the Donghua family today, it won't be so easy to get me to come back next time." The young man in white looked deeply at Donghua Zong, then turned around, preparing to leave. "Don't let the door hit you on the way out." Donghua Zong snorted. He, Donghua Zong, had been in power for half his life. When had he ever been underestimated by such a young punk? Not to mention whether the other party actually knew where the person who killed their Donghua family's eldest young master was. Even if he did, for the sake of his own pride, he was unwilling to let the other party stay here any longer. Wait. Just then, an old and resonant voice, from far to near, echoed in, "Soon." An aged man walked in. Behind the old man, an old woman followed like a shadow. Family head. Seeing the old man, Donghua Zong's face changed slightly, and he hastily bowed, cold sweat breaking out on his forehead. "Get out." The old man, who was also Donghua Lei, the head of the Donghua family, frowned. He roared. Upon hearing this, Donghua Zong's face turned pale, but he still obediently left as for the other 2 guards. Seeing Donghua Lei's sharp gaze sweep over them, they hastily followed behind Donghua Zong and retreated, not daring to hesitate at all, for a time. In the spacious main hall of the Donghua family, only Donghua Lei, the old woman, and the young man in white remained. Family head Donghua. The young man in white nodded to Donghua Lei, his expression calm, as if he wasn't facing the head of the Donghua family, one of the 3 great families of the ancient desert city, but an ordinary old man. "What do I call you?" A hint of admiration appeared in Donghua Lei's eyes. "Family head Donghua can call me Zishan." The young man in white smiled slightly. "You're not from ancient desert city?" Donghua Lei asked. "No. I'm from the Great Han Dynasty, one of the 10 dynasties to the south. This time, I'm here to participate in the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Tournament held by Tsanglong Fort." Zishang did not conceal his identity or origin, because he knew that even if he tried to conceal it, with the methods of the old man in front of him, he would soon be able to find out his background. Therefore, it was better to tell the truth. It would also be more beneficial to his plan. Dongwulle nodded, then raised his white eyebrows, his expression tightening slightly. You just said you know where the person who killed my grandson is? Do you know him? In the past few days, Dongwulle had been suffering greatly. His Dongwa family's people had spent several days and still hadn't found out who or where the person who killed his grandson was, which made him furious and anxious, wishing he could go himself to search. Today, hearing that someone had come to his door with news of the person who killed his grandson, he rushed over impatiently. Yes, Zishang nodded. As long as I can confirm that the person you mentioned is the one I'm looking for, within my personal capabilities and the capabilities of the Dongwa family, I can grant you any condition. Dongwule's cloudy eyes suddenly lit up, and he said directly, Family head Dongwa is too kind. In that case, I will not decline. Zishang smiled. This was exactly what he was waiting for. Speak. Dongwule said again, his tone filled with urgency. What he wanted most now was to find the purple-clothed young man who killed his grandson, and then inflict extreme punishment upon him, making him wish for death. Only then could he vent the hatred in his heart. Family head Dongwa, before I reveal that person, I would like to ask you to swear an oath by the 99 heavenly tribulation. That is to say, Zishang looked at Dongwule and slowly spoke. However, before he could finish, he was interrupted by the old woman standing behind Dongwule. The old woman angrily said, Young man, how dare you threaten our family head? I think you're tired of living. Zishang ignored the old woman and instead looked at Dongwule seriously. With a half-smile, Dongwule raised his hand to stop the old woman, then looked at Zishang. Continue. Please forgive me. Family head Dongwa, I'm also doing this for safety. Furthermore, I am willing to swear by my blood that if I fail to help you find the person who killed your grandson, I am willing to be struck down by the 99 heavenly tribulation. Zishang said with conviction as he spoke, without waiting for Dongwule's response. He pricked his finger, and a drop of blood rose into the air, directly making the oath. Moments later, 9 claps of thunder fell from the sky, startling the entire Dongwa family mansion and also reaching Dongwule's ears, bringing a smile to Dongwule's face. Young man, you are very good. Since you are so sincere, then please tell me directly, what oath do you want me to swear by the 99 heavenly tribulation? Dongwule looked deeply at Zishang. Family head Dongwa is a straightforward person, so I won't beat around the bush. I ask family head Dongwa to swear an oath. Once I help you find the person who killed your grandson, you must hand over this spatial ring in his possession to me, untouched, and you must not use any means to retaliate against me. Zishang said directly. Good. Dongwule didn't care why Zishang was interested in the spatial ring of his grandson's killer. What he wanted to do now was simply avenge his grandson. As for other things, he didn't care. Soon, Dongwule pricked his finger and, according to Zishang's request, swore a blood oath by the 99 heavenly tribulation. Immediately after, 9 thunderclaps once again echoed, witnessing the oath made by Dongwule. Now, can you tell me? Dongwule looked at Zishang. Of course. Zishang nodded quickly. Then he added, Family head Dongwa, in the past few days, I have repeatedly confirmed and finally ascertained. The one who killed your grandson is an enemy of mine from the Great Han Dynasty. He, like me, is here representing the Great Han Dynasty to participate in the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Tournament in ancient Desert City. His name is Duan Ling Tian. Currently, he lives in the Narcissus Pavilion in the outer fort of Tsanglong Fort. Zishang finished speaking in one breath. After speaking, Zishang left without waiting for Dongwule's response. After walking out of the main hall of the Dongwa family mansion, Zishang's face showed a brilliant smile, and he muttered to himself, Duan Ling Tian, you are really bold. As soon as you arrived in ancient Desert City, you provoked a behemoth like the Dongwa family. However, I still have to thank you for helping me achieve my goal. Now, Zishang seemed to already see himself obtaining the broken demon sealing tablet in Duan Ling Tian's hands. As long as that broken demon sealing tablet was in hand, his future would be bright. Zishang, I have to say, your plan is very good. However, negotiating with the Dongwa family is like playing with fire. The Dongwa family head might not touch you, but that doesn't mean others will tolerate you. A sinister and hoarse voice echoed in Zishang's mind. Don't worry. Old ghost, I know what I'm doing. Zishang was full of confidence. After Zishang left, a strong gust of wind soon stirred up in the main hall of the Dongwa family mansion, shifting various furnishings throughout the hall. The murals hanging on the walls even fell down. Duan Ling Tian? Songlong Fort. As the violent aura around Dongwa Lei gradually receded, the gusts of wind in the main hall gradually dissipated. No wonder my Dongwa family's people searched half of ancient desert city and couldn't find you. So, you were hiding in Songlong Fort. Dongwa Lei's eyes gleamed with a cold, predatory light. Family head. The old woman behind Dongwa Lei said, if the person who killed the eldest young master is really in Songlong Fort, I'm afraid you'll have to personally go to Songlong Fort to demand him. Songlong Fort, even its outer fort, was not a place where anyone could act recklessly, even Dongwa Lei. The head of the Dongwa family would not escape death if he rashly made a move in Songlong Fort without the permission of the person in charge of Songlong Fort. Songlong Fort had a rule. Any outsider who dares to harm Songlong Fort disciples or guests within Songlong Fort will surely die. Dongwa Lei did not respond to the old woman. He stared with blood-red eyes and left the main hall, left the Dongwa family mansion, and headed straight towards Songlong Fort. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian, in the Narcissus Pavilion of Songlong Fort's outer fort, was unaware of a crisis gradually approaching him. Currently, he stood in the open space outside the Narcissus Pavilion, diligently cultivating the 9-dragon-inch radiance flash. Of course, while cultivating the 9-dragon-inch radiance flash, he did not forget to hold a fragment of wind intent and comprehend the wind intent along the way. His wind intent was still continuously improving, and he estimated that it wouldn't be long before he could successfully break through to the second-level intermediate wind intent. At that time, his power would dramatically increase again, directly adding a full power of 10 ancient horned dragons. Whoosh, whoosh. Now, Duan Ling Tian, when performing the 9-dragon-inch radiance flash, could already manifest the second divine dragon. However, the body of this second divine dragon was not solid enough. Its eyes had not yet appeared, and it could not form inch radiance for attack. Not long after, Duan Ling Tian felt a bit tired, so he stopped out. Of course, it wasn't physical fatigue, but mental. He felt that even if he continued to cultivate, it would be difficult to make any breakthroughs, and it might even be counterproductive, so he stopped in time. After stopping, Duan Ling Tian left the Narcissus Pavilion and wandered around the outer fort. I've been at Azure Wolf Fortress for a while, but Duan Ling Tian has never truly explored it. Even if it was just the outer fortress. Along the way, Duan Ling Tian passed by many pavilions. These pavilions were all used to entertain the young talents from the 10 dynasties who had traveled a long way, including the young talents from the Dahan dynasty, just like him. Whoosh. Suddenly, a figure descended from the sky, catching Duan Ling Tian's attention. Zishang, looking at the white figure in front of him. Duan Ling Tian frowned. As Duan Ling Tian saw Zishang, Zishang clearly saw him too. A moment later, Zishang's Yuan Li condensation sound reached Duan Ling Tian's ears. Duan Ling Tian, I really admire you. You dare to do anything. You dare to kill anyone. Ha ha. As the Yuan Li condensation sound continued, Zishang laughed heartily as he returned to the pavilion where he had been staying these past few days. He's talking about the matter with the eldest young master of the Dongwa family. Duan Ling Tian had no trouble guessing that. However, Duan Ling Tian didn't care, since he dared to kill the eldest young master of the Dongwa family that day. He was prepared to deal with whatever happened next. He had heard about the rules of Azure Wolf Fortress. Because of this, he wasn't worried that anyone would dare to seek revenge on him at Azure Wolf Fortress, as for what came after. He had a plan. As long as he made a name for himself in the 10 Dynasty martial arts competition, or even achieved the first honor, he would surely gain the attention of Azure Wolf Fortress, and even become a disciple of Azure Wolf Fortress. Moreover, he would be a disciple who would be specially cultivated. After all, no force would allow a supremely talented disciple to be overlooked. He was very confident about this. He believed that with his value, he would surely be able to make Azure Wolf Fortress protect him after the 10 Dynasty martial arts competition. not allowing him to be persecuted by anyone or any force, that Tio put it bluntly. He planned to use the influence of Azure Wolf Fortress. Duan Ling Tian. Before he had walked many steps, Duan Ling Tian heard a familiar voice. His gaze fell upon a familiar figure standing on the balcony of a pavilion not far away. Su Li. Duan Ling Tian's eyes lit up, and he rose into the air, arriving beside Su Li in a flash. Su Li, when did you arrive? Just yesterday. Su Li smiled. Is Senior also here? Duan Ling Tian asked again, that he always held respect for Su Li's master behind him, because Su Li's master had saved his life. Su Li nodded. Master is meditating in his room. Then I won't disturb Senior. Duan Ling Tian smiled and said, Su Li, you're truly amazing. In such a short time, you've actually broken through 3 levels in one go, directly breaking through to Void Prying Stage 2. Void Prying Stage 2 was Su Li's current cultivation. It was also what Duan Ling Tian had detected with his spiritual power at the first moment. Duan Ling Tian, your eyes are still as sharp as before. Su Li couldn't help but sigh, then looked deeply at Duan Ling Tian. Your cultivation must be no less than mine now, right? Duan Ling Tian smiled, not answering. But Su Li seemed to have figured something out and cursed with a laugh. You're truly a monster. I remember, during the last dynasty martial competition of the Dahan dynasty, I was already at Void Initiation Stage 9, and you were only at Void Initiation Stage 8. Now, even if I've also broken through to Void Prying Stage 2, who do you think is more like a monster? Duan Ling Tian rolled his eyes at Su Li in annoyance, making Su Li give a wry smile. My situation is different. After that, Master gave me 2 more spirit fruits, one of which was a spirit fruit specifically for Void Prying Stage martial artists, helping me break through from Void Prying Stage 1 to Void Prying Stage 2 in a short period of time. Can I assume you're showing off? While Duan Ling Tian was speechless, he deeply felt the benefits of having a master with a profound background. Why didn't he have such good fortune? Although, during the second life of the reincarnation Martial Emperor, he had left a great treasure in the outer realm for his third life, and he could retrieve it with the reincarnation Martial Emperor's memories. But he didn't have a complete map of the cloud-soaring continent in his hands, nor did he know exactly which area of the cloud-soaring continent he was currently in. Therefore, even if he wanted to retrieve that great treasure, he wouldn't know where to start looking. And while Duan Ling Tian and Su Li were talking for a long time, in the void near the inner fortress of Azure Wolf Fortress, an elderly man was standing in the air, waiting quietly, as if expecting something. A moment later, whoosh, a figure streaked out from the inner fortress, arriving not far in front of the elderly man in a flash, standing steadily in the air. This was a middle-aged man wearing the standard uniform of Azure Wolf Fortress. However, the Azure Wolf pattern on the emblem on his chest had golden eyes. In Azure Wolf Fortress, the standard uniform with the bronze-eyed Azure Wolf head emblem belonged to ordinary disciples. The uniform with the silver-eyed Azure Wolf head emblem belonged to core disciples and ordinary elders, and the standard uniform with the golden-eyed Azure Wolf head emblem could only be worn by the 5 Vice Fort Masters of Azure Wolf Fortress. Thus, the identity of the middle-aged man was obvious. He was one of the 5 Vice Fort Masters of Azure Wolf Fortress. Vice Fort Master Phone. When the old man saw the middle-aged man, he bowed slightly. Perhaps his age was much greater than that of the middle-aged man in front of him, but in terms of strength, he was far inferior to the other party. Moreover, the other party's status was enough for him to look up to. If he hadn't helped the other party in some matters back then, it was uncertain whether the other party would even give him face and come out to see him this time. The middle-aged man, named Feng Wei, was one of the 5 Vice Fort Masters of Azure Wolf Fortress. Looking for me for something? Facing the patriarch of the Donghua family, one of the 3 great families of Damu Ancient City, Feng Wei asked with some impatience. Perhaps this patriarch of the Donghua family could stir up trouble in Damu Ancient City. But in the eyes of him, a Vice Fort Master of Azure Wolf Fortress, he was no different from an ANT long as he wanted, let alone this patriarch of the Donghua family. Even the entire Donghua family would cease to exist if it weren't for the fact that the other party had helped him with some things back then. He wouldn't have come out to see the other party today. Vice Fort Master Feng, I came to you today because I have a matter I need your help with. Facing Feng Wei, Donghua Lei showed a humble demeanor, completely devoid of the high and mighty attitude he had when he was in the Donghua family, bowing respectfully as he spoke. Speak. Feng Wei was very straightforward. Vice Fort Master Feng, my grandson was brutally murdered a few days ago. Today, I received news confirming that the person who killed my grandson is a young man from the Dehan dynasty, one of the 10 dynasties to the south. At this point, Donghua Lei gritted his teeth slightly. Get to the point. Feng Wei said impatiently. Yes, yes. Hearing Feng Wei's impatience, Donghua Lei became a little flustered for a moment and quickly said, Vice Fort Master Feng, the young man who killed my grandson is one of the 10 young talents from the Dehan dynasty who came to participate in the 10 Dynasty martial arts competition, and he is currently staying in the Narcissus Pavilion in your outer fortress. Donghua Lei once again implores Vice Fort Master Feng. I hope Vice Fort Master Feng can allow me to personally drag him out and avenge my grandson. Donghua Lei explained his purpose. You want to kill someone in my Azure Wolf Fortress. Feng Wei's face instantly seemed to be covered in a layer of frost, and his voice revealed extreme coldness, making Donghua Lei feel as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. I only need to take him away, and I will absolutely not let Azure Wolf Fortress be stained with even a drop of blood. I ask Vice Fort Master Feng to grant my request. Considering what happened back then, Donghua Lei took a deep breath and pulled out his biggest trump card. This trump card was precisely the favor Vice Fort Master Feng owed him back then, a favor he had originally intended to save for his grandson, Donghua Han. But now, his grandson had been killed, and he had no more reservations, using it directly for the matter of avenging his grandson. Feng Wei's eyes flashed when he heard Donghua Lei's words. Are you sure you want to use up the favor I owed you back then? I'm telling you, once this favor is used up, there will be no more connection between you and me in the future. Even if you die, or even if the Donghua family is annihilated, it will have nothing to do with me. Feng Wei's words rang out with conviction. Donghua Lei took another deep breath and nodded fiercely. I understand. That's good. Feng Wei nodded. You come with me, and I'll hand the person over to you. From now on, you and I are strangers. With that, Feng Wei flew out, heading straight for the row of pavilions in the outer fortress that hosted the 10 dynasties. The favor he owed back then had always been a burden on his mind. Being able to repay that favor today was undoubtedly a relief for him. A young man from a dynasty, in his eyes, was as worthless as grass. Being able to help him repay a favor was also a blessing he had cultivated in his previous life. Donghua Lei, with a look of joy, followed closely behind Feng Wei. Flying into the air, Peony Pavilion was the pavilion where Su Li resided. I really didn't expect that in this 1 year. You've almost traveled to the other 9 dynasties. After hearing about Su Li's experiences over the past year, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but sigh. Feeling that Su Li's life was truly too exciting compared to his OWN, it even made him feel a little jealous. What about you? What have you been doing this past year? Su Li asked with a smile. Me? I'm not as carefree as you. Duan Ling Tian shook his head with a smile. But before he could finish his sentence, his expression had already changed, simply because a loud voice was now coming from outside. Duan Ling Tian of the Dehan dynasty, come out. This voice was looking for him. Who is it? Hearing the voice, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but frown that he was certain that he had never heard this voice before, which meant that he and the owner of the voice had never known each other in the past. With doubts, Duan Ling Tian flew out, and seeing Duan Ling Tian's puzzled expression, Su Li, who sensed that something was amiss, hurriedly followed Duan Ling Tian. Swish, swish. Duan Ling Tian and Su Li rose into the air, and in a moment, they were above the Peony Pavilion, looking at the 2 figures standing in the distant void. A middle-aged man wearing the standard uniform of Azure Wolf Fortress, and an old man in casual clothes. Now, not only have Duan Ling Tian and Su Li come out, but also the representatives of various dynasties and young talents from the surrounding pavilions. Among them were Feng Wu Dao, Feng Tian Wu, and Zhang Shou Yong. It also included the emperor of the Han dynasty, the second prince Bai He, and The Little Prince by Hao. As for Zishang, he stood in the air with an old man in black. The old man in black was his master, by Nanyin, who was also the imperial uncle of the Han Dynasty emperor and the half-brother of Bai Nanxiang, who Duan Ling Tian had killed with a talisman. The people of the Han Dynasty looked at each other. They want to find Duan Ling Tian. Did Duan Ling Tian commit some crime? Just as the people of the Han Dynasty were deeply puzzled. Look, the emblem on the chest of this middle-aged man's clothes, the head of a wolf. The eyes of that wolf head are golden. It really is. I don't know if this golden-eyed wolf head has any special meaning. I still remember, a few days ago, the middle-aged man who welcomed me into Songlong Fort, the wolf head emblem on his chest. The wolf head's eyes were only bronzed. That day, I heard a Songlong Fort disciple mention. In Songlong Fort, the color of the eyes on the wolf head emblem represents the status of every person in Songlong Fort. The people from the other 9 dynasties all looked at the wolf head emblem on the chest of the middle-aged man's clothes in the distance. That golden-eyed wolf head gave them an indescribable sense of oppression. Humph, a bunch of bumpkins. And just then, everyone saw that the old man, who appeared very humble beside the middle-aged man, was actually looking at them with disdain and calling them bumpkins. Immediately, the representatives and young talents of the 10 dynasties glared at the old man, wishing they could hack him to pieces, just as some people couldn't help but want to retort. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 figures soared into the sky and reached the void in a moment. These were 3 middle-aged men, dressed in green uniforms. They were clearly all disciples of Songlong Fort. Recently, they had been hosting the representatives and young talents from the 10 dynasties, preparing for the 10 dynasty martial arts gathering. It's him. He was the one who received us into Songlong Fort that day. The young talents of the 10 dynasties whispered among themselves. Duan Ling Tian raised an eyebrow. Until now, he still didn't know what had happened, because he didn't know the 2 middle-aged men and the old man who had come to find him so ostentatiously. However, he had some impression of one of the 3 Songlong Fort disciples who had appeared now, if he remembered correctly. When he, Feng Wu Dao, and Feng Tian Wu first arrived at Songlong Fort that day, they were received by this person. Greetings, Vice Fort Master. The 3 Songlong Fort disciples, whose wolf head emblems on their chests had bronze eyes, looked at the middle-aged man whose wolf head emblem on his chest had golden eyes, and bowed respectfully. This scene caused the expressions of the representatives of the 10 dynasties and the young talents, including Duan Ling Tian, to change slightly. Vice Fort Master? The Vice Fort Master of Songlong Fort? Everyone, this is our Songlong Fort's Vice Fort Master Feng. Soon, one of the Songlong Fort disciples looked around at the people from the 10 dynasties and introduced him directly. Greetings, Vice Fort Master. Greetings, Vice Fort Master. For a time, the people from the 10 dynasties either bowed to Feng Wei or nodded to him, the latter group. In addition to some arrogant young talents including Duan Ling Tian, Feng Tian Wu, and Su Li, also included people like Feng Wu Dao and the Emperor of the Han Dynasty. They were all famous powerhouses in their respective dynasties, with transcendent status. Since they had achieved their current status, they had never bowed to anyone again. Therefore, even when facing the Vice Fort Master of Songlong Fort today, although they were wary of his strength, none of them bent their backs, which contained their dignity. For those who had long held high positions, dignity was more important than anything else. However, Feng Wei clearly had no intention of arguing with them. Or perhaps, in Feng Wei's eyes, he didn't even consider them important. This old fellow acts quite fast. But I didn't expect that he, a mere clan leader of the Donghua family, could even invite a Vice Fort Master from Songlong Fort. Zishang's heart stirred, and a smile played on his lips. He looked at Duan Ling Tian with a mocking gaze, as if he had already seen Duan Ling Tian being killed. Duan Ling Tian also noticed Zishang's strange gaze and couldn't help but frown. What exactly happened? Just now, it was this Vice Fort Master Feng of Songlong Fort who called me out. What does he want with me? Duan Ling Tian looked at Feng Wei, his brows tightly furrowed, not knowing why the other party was looking for him. Who is Duan Ling Tian? Feng Wei spoke again, his gaze calm and his expression unruffled, as if he was talking about something unrelated to him. What does Vice Fort Master Feng want with Duan Ling Tian? For a time, many people from the Han Dynasty turned to look at Duan Ling Tian, who was standing beside Su Li. Immediately after, like a chain reaction, the representatives and young talents of the other 9 dynasties also turned their gazes to Duan Ling Tian. He is Duan Ling Tian. In the great Chu Kingdom's camp, a young man in blue robes flashed his eyes, his expression changing slightly. Isn't he just a young talent from the Han Dynasty? To be able to have the Vice Fort Master of Songlong Fort personally come to find him, he really has a lot of face. As the blue-robed youth murmured, his eyes were filled with jealousy. Duan Ling Tian and another thin young man standing beside the blue-robed youth shook his head after hearing the blue-robed youth's words. This matter is not that simple. His gaze fell on the old man behind Feng Wei, and he noticed the extreme coldness in the old man's eyes that if Duan Ling Tian had seen the two of them head-on, he would have recognized them immediately. These two were the people he and Zhang Shouyong had clashed with in the restaurant of the great desert ancient city a few days ago. 2 young talents from the great Chu Kingdom. Not good. At this moment, Feng Wudao noticed something was wrong with the old man behind Feng Wei. The moment the old man's gaze locked onto Duan Ling Tian, the killing intent in his eyes almost burst out. Feng Wudao sensed the old man's hostility towards Duan Ling Tian, an unending hostility. Soon, many people also noticed this. Among them was Duan Ling Tian. Could it be someone from the Donghua family? But a mere person from the Donghua family, even the highest-ranking clan leader, would probably find it difficult to invite the Vice Fort Master of Songlong Fort, right? Duan Ling Tian's expression darkened, his eyes flickering. Realizing that he might have miscalculated, he never expected that a mere person from the Donghua family could actually make the Vice Fort Master of Songlong Fort personally come to find him. And the purpose of finding him was obvious. Perhaps there's some connection between them. One wrong step, and every step is wrong. I just hope I can escape this calamity smoothly. Taking a deep breath, Duan Ling Tian's eyes glinted with a sharp light, his thoughts racing at this moment. Various solutions to the problem flashed through his mind. First, ask Su Li's master for help. However, even if Su Li's master was willing to help him, Songlong Fort was not the Zhao family of the Daming Dynasty. There were many powerhouses there, and there were probably quite a few powerhouses above the Void Transformation Stage 7. Such a behemoth. Su Li's master might not be able to handle it. Second, use the last 2 talismans his father left him to kill this Vice Fort Master of Songlong Fort and this person from the Donghua family, and then escape from the great desert ancient city. However, if he did this, he might be able to escape from the great desert ancient city, but he might not be able to escape the pursuit of Songlong Fort. Moreover, if he did this, it might even implicate Feng Wudao and Feng Tianwu, father and daughter, which he was unwilling to see. For a time, Duan Ling Tian only thought of these 2 methods to solve the current problem, and these 2 methods seemed unreliable. Could it be that I, Duan Ling Tian, am really destined to die here today? Unconsciously, a bitter, indescribable bitterness appeared on Duan Ling Tian's lips. He is that Duan Ling Tian. In the Daming Dynasty's camp, a young man in a silver robe with gold trim looked at another young man beside him and asked with a half-smile. If Duan Ling Tian looked over at this moment, he would definitely recognize at a glance that the young man being asked was someone he had once seen in the Ice Fire Tower in the capital of the Daming Dynasty, Zhao Wei, the strongest young generation of the Zhao family, and one of the 2 most outstanding young powerhouses of the Daming Dynasty. Facing the old rival's question, Zhao Wei's face alternated between green and pale, and he didn't respond. Imperial brother, he is that Duan Ling Tian. But it seems he's going to be unlucky today. Liu Hao laughed. Liu Hao was precisely the 3rd prince whom Duan Ling Tian had met on the 9th floor of the Ice Fire Tower in the past. And he was also the only young talent from the Daming Dynasty present at that time who did not attack Duan Ling Tian. Clearly, the young man in the silver robe with gold trim was the current crown prince of the Daming Dynasty's imperial family, Liu Yong. Old Qian, the master of the person beside Duan Ling Tian, killed Old Kuan. Zhao Wei stared intently at Su Li, who was beside Duan Ling Tian. Thinking of that day's scene, he still felt a chill. That seemingly ordinary, burly middle-aged man made a move, and in just one encounter, he killed one of the strongest Qian Kuan elders of their Zhao family. The gray-robed old man standing not far away changed color when he heard Zhao Weiyi's words. Of course, he had no intention of seeking revenge, because he knew in his heart that since that powerhouse could kill his old friend in one encounter, he could also kill him in one encounter. Their Qian Kuan elders were equally matched in strength. Above the void, the atmosphere was very tense, filled with an ominous feeling. Duan Ling Tian became the focus of everyone's attention. You are Duan Ling Tian. Finally, Songlong Fort's vice fort master, Feng Wei, looked at Duan Ling Tian, a hint of surprise in his eyes. Evidently, he was startled by Duan Ling Tian's age that a young man who appeared to be only around 25 years old could stand out in the Dehan dynasty, qualify for the 10 dynasty martial arts competition, and even kill that profligate son of the Donghua family, which was truly astonishing. Yes. Facing Feng Wei's inquiry, Duan Ling Tian responded. Now, even if he denied being Duan Ling Tian, it would be useless. The scorching gazes sweeping over him, if they were sword beams, would have surely left him riddled with holes by now. You, go with Patriarch Donghua. The surprise in Feng Wei's eyes quickly vanished, returning to calm, and his words were filled with an undeniable tone. Patriarch Donghua? Indeed, Duan Ling Tian's expression changed. It seemed his guess was correct. The old man who looked at him as if he wanted to devour him was indeed from the Donghua family. And he was even the patriarch of the Donghua family. In other words, he was the biological grandfather of the profligate son, Donghua Han, whom Duan Ling Tian had killed. However, facing Feng Wei's undeniable command, Duan Ling Tian seemed not to have heard it. Instead, he calmly glanced at Feng Wei. Deputy Fortress Lord Feng, if I'm not mistaken, currently, I am considered your guest here in your Kangwolf Fortress, am I not? Feng Wei frowned. What do you want to say? I just want Deputy Fortress Lord Feng to know. I am a guest of Kangwolf Fortress, not a disciple of Kangwolf Fortress. Therefore, you have no authority to command me. Duan Ling Tian spoke each word clearly, neither humble nor arrogant, his backbone unyielding. Duan Ling Tian's words stunned everyone from the 10 dynasties to this Duan Ling Tian, not afraid of death? How dare he speak to the Deputy Fortress Lord of Kangwolf Fortress like that? Those who hated Duan Ling Tian immensely broke into smiles, as if they had already witnessed Duan Ling Tian being killed by an enraged Feng Wei. Presumptuous. The 3 Kangwolf Fortress disciples' expressions changed, and they angrily rebuked Duan Ling Tian. You, a country bumpkin, dare to be disrespectful to our Kangwolf Fortress's Deputy Fortress Lord? You're courting death. As the 3 spoke, their elemental energies surged, and above the void, the phenomena of heaven and earth gradually appeared. Above the heads of the 3 Kangwolf Fortress disciples, 100 ancient horned dragon phantoms each materialized. It was clear that all 3 of them were void transformation stage level 7 martial artists. Seeing this, everyone present from the 10 dynasties couldn't help but gasp. The 3 Kangwolf Fortress disciples before them seemed to hold the lowest status within Kangwolf Fortress. Yet, such beings were all void transformation stage level 7 martial artists. At this moment, they all profoundly realized the true power of Kangwolf Fortress, leaving them deeply shocked from the bottom of their hearts. As expected of the overlord of the outer realm borderlands near the 10 dynasties. This Kangwolf Fortress, even if only a few elders were dispatched, would probably be enough to annihilate any dynasty if the Deputy Fortress Lord were to act personally. He could likely destroy all 10 dynasties with his power alone, without the slightest effort. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 3 figures, as if by prior agreement, instantly arrived beside Duan Ling Tian, standing there, Feng Wudao, Feng Tianwu, Zhang Shouyong, looking at the 3. Although Duan Ling Tian was filled with gratitude, he couldn't help but advise. Uncle Feng, Tianwu, and Brother Zhang. This matter has nothing to do with you. You should go back. It's easy to add flowers to brocade, but difficult to offer charcoal in the snow. Brother Duan, don't forget, you weren't the only one who clashed with that profligate son of the Donghua family back then. Feng Tianwu said seriously. Exactly. Since we caused trouble together, We'll bear the consequences together, Zhang Shouyong said with a frank and fearless expression. So you three are his accomplices from that day. Dong Wulei's gaze swept over Feng Wudao and the other two, filled with killing intent. Immediately after, he looked at Feng Wei beside him, suppressing the anger in his heart, and humbly said, Deputy Fortress Lord Feng, if possible, I would like to take all three of them. Feng Wei didn't look at Dong Wulei and said indifferently, You can only take one person. That was our previous agreement. As for the other three, as long as they are not in my Kangwolf Fortress, what you do in the future is naturally unrelated to my Kangwolf Fortress. Feng Wei's words were very clear. Today, Dong Wulei, you can only take Duan Ling Tian. That is the favor I am returning to you. As for the other three, as long as they are still in Kangwolf Fortress, you cannot touch them. But if they leave Kangwolf Fortress in the future, Kangwolf Fortress will absolutely not interfere with whatever you choose to do. Dong Wulei's eyes brightened upon hearing this. Thank you for your guidance, Deputy Fortress Lord Feng. Duan Ling Tian. Deputy Fortress Lord Feng commands you to leave with me. Why are you not going? Do you truly intend to defy the Deputy Fortress Lord's command? Dong Wulei stared at Duan Ling Tian with cold eyes, saying in a deep voice, Old man, are your ears faulty? Duan Ling Tian sneered. I just said that I am not a Kangwolf Fortress disciple and do not need to obey the command of your Kangwolf Fortress's Deputy Fortress Lord. Of course, if this Kangwolf Fortress's Deputy Fortress Lord wants to cast out me, a guest invited by Kangwolf Fortress from the distant Dan dynasty, I have no objections. It's just that, at that time, I'm afraid some people will say, the Deputy Fortress Lord of Kangwolf Fortress, for his own selfish desires, disregarded the reputation of Kangwolf Fortress and forced a guest invited by Kangwolf Fortress to his death. Duan Ling Tian emphasized the word guest particularly heavily. What a sharp tongue. Feng Wei's calm face finally showed a change, a hint of imperceptible coldness flashing in his eyes. You're courting death, kid. The three Kangwolf Fortress disciples, seeing Duan Ling Tian still daring to be insolent in front of their Kangwolf Fortress's Deputy Fortress Lord, immediately became furious and rushed at Duan Ling Tian together, with three Void Transformation Stage Level 7 experts attacking. Duan Ling Tian had no power to retaliate at all. But at this moment, Feng Wudao made his move. With a raised hand, his sleeve swept out, elemental energy surging, directly sending the three Kangwolf Fortress disciples, who had used all their techniques, flying. Whoosh. Above the void over Feng Wudao's head, 600 ancient horned dragon phantoms condensed into form, winding down, lifelike. Illusion Transformation Stage Level 4. Immediately, everyone from the 10 dynasties, including those from the Daihan dynasty, were greatly astonished. This Feng Wudao is actually an Illusion Transformation Stage Level 4 expert. Bai Nanin, who was Zishang's master, had a slight change in expression. The Daihan dynasty emperor's pupils also couldn't help but contract, and he murmured, I never expected him to hide so deeply. In that case, the Grand Imperial Uncle, whose whereabouts are still unknown, most likely died by his hand. And the second prince of the Daihan dynasty, Bai He, the young prince Bai Hao, as well as Zishang and other young talents, also showed expressions of shock at this moment. They had all not expected that Feng Wudao, the eldest master of the Feng family, would be so powerful. Illusion Transformation Stage Level 4, such strength was enough to dominate the entire Daihan dynasty, and even dominating the 10 dynasties would likely be no problem at all. This could be clearly seen from the incredulous faces of the people from the other 9 dynasties. Feng Wudao of the Daihan dynasty. Though I've heard of him in the past, I never expected him to be such a formidable expert. The experts from various dynasties sighed in admiration. The Daihan dynasty actually produced such an expert. The young talents from various dynasties were also greatly shocked. Illusion Transformation Stage Level 4? I must say, as someone from the 10 dynasties, your talent is enough to make you proud. However, to attack my Kangwolf Fortress's disciples within my Kangwolf Fortress, do you take me for non-existent? Feng Wei looked at Feng Wudao with cold eyes. The next moment, no one saw what happened, and Feng Wudao was sent flying, his elemental energy almost annihilated, his aura weak, swaying precariously. After spitting out a mouthful of clotted blood, Feng Wudao looked at Feng Wei with a gaze full of dread. An expert above illusion transformation stage level 7 is indeed powerful. Good eyesight. That was just a slight punishment for you. If you dare to offend again, I will cripple your cultivation, Feng Wei said indifferently, his words showing complete disregard for Feng Wudao. What if he was at illusion transformation stage level 4? In front of him, he was no different from an ant. You, seeing her father severely injured. Feng Tianwu's beautiful face instantly changed, and she glared angrily at Feng Wei. However, before she could speak, she was stopped by a panicked Feng Wudao, who was deeply afraid that his daughter would incur Feng Wei's wrath because of this if Feng Wei were to deliver a killing blow. Even 10 of him wouldn't be able to protect his daughter. Uncle Feng. Duan Ling Tian looked at Feng Wudao with a worried expression, and with a raised hand, he directly took out a pill and placed it in Feng Wudao's hand. This is, looking at the pill in front of him. Feng Wudao was stunned. Third grade rebirth pill. Duan Ling Tian said. Feng Wudao's eyes lit up, and he hastily took the third grade rebirth pill. In a moment, his injuries recovered by more than half, and his pale complexion also returned to a healthy flush. Third grade rebirth pill? For a moment, many people among the 10 dynasties looked at Duan Ling Tian with surprise. Third grade rebirth pills, even within the 10 dynasties, were considered rare items. Facing these surprised gazes, Duan Ling Tian was noncommittal. It was also because he hadn't prepared. Otherwise, even a second grade rebirth pill, he could refine. Wait, second grade rebirth pill. Just then, a flash of inspiration struck Duan Ling Tian, and he thought of a way to escape. That was to reveal his identity as a second-grade alchemist, making the deputy fortress lord of Kangwolf Fortress reluctant to harm him. In Kangwolf Fortress, there might be third-grade alchemists, but a second-grade alchemist was absolutely impossible to have. This, Duan Ling Tian could easily deduce from the memories of the reincarnation Martial Emperor's 2 lives. Kangwolf Fortress was just a force located in the borderlands of the Outer Realm, and it was nothing compared to the entire Outer Realm. And in the central region of the Outer Realm, any first-rate force, by sending out a single Martial Emperor expert, could easily annihilate Kangwolf Fortress. Martial Emperor experts were legends in the 10 dynasties, rumors in the Outer Realm borderlands. But in the central region of the Outer Realm, they were a tangible presence. Any force above first rate in the Outer Realm had many Martial Emperor experts guarding it.